I would say that maybe the most challenging undertaking that I try to pay attention to, the most challenging element of the videos that I make is to try as hard as I can to make sure that my views only pertain to the content that people are taught by. The difficult thing is that if I refer to certain aspects of what is taught, people sometimes choose to assume that I'm insulting or making reference to the people as people who are teaching you. I don't want to do that, and I really try hard not to do that. With this in mind, welcome to another episode of And Nothing But the Truth. Allow me to read poster comments. These comments ought to be taken as comments, and please try not to associate them specifically, but to get a sense of what people are saying about people that are teaching them. This is vital. Listen to this, because there's many more like this, and then we'll discuss what I believe is happening. I put asterisks for teachers' names, and the references that have been shared about a teacher are such a genuinely nice person, so inspirational. Next one, no ego, but honesty. The next one is an absolute genius, down to earth, humble, and full of positive energy. Excuse me. The next one states he's truly a gift to humanity, will forever be my most influential teacher. This teacher is the most inspiring person I ever could see. Another reference is his greatness goes beyond his fingers. Such a positive person and real inspiration. Now, there are more. There's his warmth extends. This is a good one, actually, very complimentary. His warmth extends to everyone. I learned so much about my instrument from him and play better than ever. Now, if you'll allow me, you will notice that while these are heartfelt and generous comments, you might notice here and elsewhere that music is never referenced. That people who may say, I've learned so much about my instrument. I've seen these comments elsewhere. I'm sure some of you have. But with respect, no one, and I literally point to zero, have shared what they've learned about their instrument and how does one play better than ever. The fact of the bass, the fact of any instrument, that the way we play better than ever is by practicing it and improving an understanding of music on it. Let's say as a self-taught player, the more songs you learn, the better you'll play. Paul McCartney is, I would say, a great example of a self-taught bassist who on his own developed his understanding of the instrument and was born creative enough to create bass lines that are eternally wonderful bass lines for the Beatles songs that he played. This list represents many other comments from bass players who emotionally and with feeling share admiration for a bass teacher or teachers, but none of whom share what they learned. None of whom have shared what they were taught specifically to practice. There is an ethic or a certain fundamental group philosophy within communities that follow teachers that if they feel good, it must reflect in their bass playing. And the very, very difficult and challenging thing for me is not to dissuade people from having good feelings about the teachers they admire, but to point out and I'm sorry about this, the almost entirely reasonable conclusion that nobody plays better from the lessons that are taught from this teacher or any teacher who describes the playing experience. I can describe to you the flying experience, and it will be poetic, and it will set off images in people's minds. The idea is that until one actually flies, what I've shared can't have that much of an impact on preparing them for leaving the earth for a small amount of time. Bass education has become a place of reference. It's become a place of commentary and the belief that kindness and love, which are of course important, actually either equal or supersede the importance of learning music. This is where I believe that bass players, you haven't been conned, you've been misguided. You have learned or agreed or came to the conclusion that if people are loving and kind, then this validates their ability to teach you how to play better. I don't agree, because I can't find a similar experience in any other musical reality. It's hard to imagine anyone on any instrument who will ever state that they got better because the teacher that they taught them is a gift to humanity and inspirational. Consider the term inspirational, because a lot of people have shared this relating to a teacher and other sources. It's sort of a Berkeley principle where the Q&As that I personally see as not helpful to bass students are seen as inspirational. But inspiration requires a follow-through. To be inspired means to be lifted up in order to do the work to accomplish something by having been inspired by somebody else's commentaries or demonstrations. Inspiration means you get to work in order to fulfill the inspiration that one feels, or else what one is feeling isn't inspiration. It's a warm, satisfying feeling, but it isn't inspiration, and I do believe that the word is misused, especially amongst bass players who, most of whom, I can't say all, have not used their inspiration to get into a practice room and to practice lessons and principles of music. And I will say that those that have, none of whom were taught lessons by the teachers that inspired them. So while this sounds hard, I'm walking a very delicate line here, trying not to be hard or rude, but to be as clear as possible that in all things musical, in the area of being taught, there are guaranteed and specific mechanical principles that apply to just about everybody. And that the loving teachers and the kind inspiration and the good feelings we get do not translate into musical improvement. If people can give this thought, then people can keep on loving who they wish, but also accept an absolute truth. People don't like when I say absolute or total truths, or they don't like. I said truth once, and a representative of a famous bass teacher came back and said, "Well, what is truth?" And that's when I believed, starting here, that there wasn't principles that the teacher, and I would assume the people around him, stood for. If people ask, well, what actually is truth? Then my conclusion is they haven't found something that applies to practically everybody, and they haven't decided to stand for it. There is a problem here, and the problem is entirely in this little corner of music called being taught. People buy basses, but for some reason seem uninterested in learning what the instrument was built to provide. So I'll make these little videos and extend an acknowledgement to the loving and kind, family-oriented and kind interaction of bass students who, as one guy said, will forever be my most influential teacher. But I suspect that if this student was asked, or this person was asked, what did your most influential teacher do in regards to a lesson to get you to practice or to play the instrument better? And there is why I believe that the whole bass educational system is flawed, because it attributes emotion and communication and empathy and all of the elements that we all should have anyway from our upbringing, and as I've said in other videos, family upbringing, religious upbringing, the schooling that we received, that also in part of the schooling education for years and years were lessons in order to comport ourselves and to fit into society. The inspiration that we seek requires follow-through, but I don't see it. And the most influential teacher might, if you ask that any of these people or anybody else, which people can do online to start a conversation, people will probably never share any lesson that was taught to them, which is precisely why I see bass educators as unqualified to teach. If the notion is spiritual, that's fair. But when people attribute music teacher and are assigned positions in music colleges and other places in order to instruct people, and music isn't taught as the core of what's being taught, then I'll suggest to all these people and others not to cause harm and not to hurt you. Like I said, I'm working very hard not to be untoward in your feelings and admiration for teachers. But if your teachers aren't teaching you this way, there's something wrong in bass education. And without bass students insisting on something better, bass education can't improve. So I'll do these little videos standing for you, standing for people, to give opportunities to weigh what is taught in different locales and compare it to what I share here. So you can weigh these two and then make a conclusion that will best suit your outcome as bass players. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the alert button, and thanks for listening. Please share your thoughts.